Good evening. Welcome to Hudson Valley Public Access Television. 10 acres plus, riverfront, cheap. It's like a real estate ad. It's what our village is proposing to do with our waterfront, 10 acres plus of property that we either own or are about to own. And we've been talking about this for a couple of months now, and some details about different aspects of the transaction. We're going to do a lot of discussion about the details both tonight, and I have a Saturday morning television program called The Local Scene, where I'm actually going to go through the numbers of the projections that the mayor has floated about and what some of the actual concrete numbers are. One of the things I want to address first is the fact that the little talks we've been having have been attracting a lot of attention, not just from people who are interested in protecting our waterfront and developing it for us, but also from our municipal officials who are trying to hand it away to be developed for parking lot and condominium and other stuff, and what they have in store for you with some detail. So first, there are two cable programs that are running right now that I recommend you watch if you haven't seen them already. One of them is called We Mean Business, and on that, the mayor and a gentleman from Yonkers who is involved in the waterfront development process in Yonkers were on. And during the course of the discussion on that program, the mayor gushes, basically, that Ossining and Yonkers are very much alike. I don't know, for some reason, after doing real estate closings for the last 27 years, I've seen many people move from Yonkers to Ossining. Why? Because they thought, and put their money where their mouth was in each case, that Ossining is quite different from Yonkers. Aside from the size, there's all kinds of differences. Yonkers is a city, Ossining is a village. That's not just a technical slash legal slash political difference, it's a major social difference. Yonkers is one of the largest cities in New York State, as a matter of fact, and it is the largest city in Westchester County by far. Ossining is a little bucolic riverfront village with a long history. It's green. Yonkers is concrete, most of it. There are green parts in Yonkers, but they are geographically in the minority. Ossining has had its ups and downs socially, but it has a very different history than the social history in Yonkers, absolutely different. For example, no requirement for absolute 20-year intervention by the federal court system on how people get along in Ossining. There could be improvements in Ossining, granted, but to compare it to Yonkers is absurd or devious or I don't know what, ridiculous. Anyway, if you watch that show, the mayor makes a number of references to what we've been talking about. And I'm not even going to comment on them. You watch them yourself and keep your eyes out for the numbers that are going to be on the other program that I air. Also, by the way, I'd like to let you know that I intend to be at the Village Fair on June 12th, all day, with a lot of information for you about what could be done with the riverfront and what is proposed to be done with the riverfront. There will be copies of all of the documents that are pertinent to this. I have the development agreement. Here's a copy of it here. And I also have the environmental filings that they made. I have, let's see, a copy of the assessment roll and tax maps of the whole area so you can look at what's down there and who owns it and all of that, who's paying taxes. Also a copy of the Harbor Square zoning petition and maps, which is the proposed change to our zoning ordinance that has to be done before they can build this project, because guess what? Right now the project violates our existing zoning code. Isn't that interesting? But it's just a mere impediment to the development machine here. I wonder if the mayor would help walk this through the planning board and the village board if you wanted to put an extra apartment or maybe a deck or a swimming pool or something on your property. I don't think so. Anyway, so the other show I wanted you to see, which is on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock, is the mayor's program Inside Ossining, which is the same title, by the way, that he uses on the series of articles that he publishes in the Penny Saver. And coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, the most recent program, which started airing a week ago tonight is June 2nd, 1999, are more or less on the same theme. A couple of swipes at me on the show. He names me twice, maybe 3 times, I don't recall. And I think he's referring to me, I don't know, he used the word gadfly in the article in the Penny Saver. He also misused a number of words. It took me a few reads to try to figure out what he was trying to say. The last sentence there that takes up the right-hand side of the page, you might want to chat with some people over at the school district about run-on sentences and dependent clauses and such. But anyway, sorry for the cheap shots. The point being that you know, he's like swiping out now. However, as I've told you a number of times already, I asked for numbers from the mayor to study or analyze, and it's been about 6-8 weeks now, and I still haven't seen any, and he still hasn't published any. He makes a few remarks about how many people are going to live in a condominium, not any, you know, projections, no real numbers, other than well, you'll see. There's like one gross number he talks about of children in condominiums. He doesn't say where the source is, whether it was his imagination or the school district or what, but anyway. Let's see. A number of other things, by the way, in terms of comparing Ossining to Yonkers. Keep in mind that they have a full-time mayor, and, you know, strong mayor, city council, all of that type of government in Yonkers and cities. In village government, in fact, we have a part-time mayor, and our village business is run more or less by a village manager on the day-to-day. And now, also, another cost that isn't going to be an increased cost, by the way, to village taxpayers of this waterfront development proposal is that we just hired a $21,000 for 6-month consultant to deal with planning issues because of the development process. You can hear the discussion about that on the village board meeting, which will air on the 4th and the 11th, probably, of June at 10 o'clock on this station. It's pretty interesting also. That meeting wasn't very long, so for people that, you know, find it tedious sitting through board meetings on television, I know a lot of people do, this would be one that you could watch. There's not a lot of substance, but there's a couple of interesting things. One is the fact that they're going to change the entire village code that's been going on for a little while now, and, you know, the entire law, the charter, basically. And they had a public hearing on it at this board meeting the other night. They're going to have another public hearing on it also. And according to the village attorney, Thomas Barnes, the zoning aspect of it is going to remain the same. So we haven't had a chance to review it, but he knows his stuff, and I take his word for it. Anyway, the things that I wanted to address, I'm going to jump around a lot because I've got a lot of paper here with a lot of different things, and I want to try to cover all of it. And so here we go. One of the things the mayor's been saying on both of these programs, particularly on the Inside Ossining one, and as far back as November 2nd, 1994, Penny Saver ad, when they were running for office in 94, among other things, well-planned development for our riverfront that preserves public access. So you remember maybe before the election last year, it said public access guaranteed, and you'll see this. So on this program now, he's saying that they're going to have all this public land, parkland, at the waterfront. And in fact, on the map for the Harbor Square zoning petition, I'll hold it up, but you can't see it. I'll have this at the Village Fair at the table and a few other locations. So track me down. I'll be wearing one of those T-shirts and handing them out for free, too, by the way, and hoping that the mayor comes by to debate me about the numbers on this project, or about the project in general. And by the way, if he doesn't, if anyone out there knows how to do that, blow up a photograph and make a cardboard cutout of somebody, I would love to have a cardboard cutout of the mayor to debate, if he won't debate me at the Village Fair. Anyway, Harbor Park, which is the big waterfront park that they're talking about, the dimensions of it, 180 feet deep and 160 feet wide. Okay? About a third of it is underwater. So 180 times 160 is about, they said this is, it's about an acre, 2 acres, it's 28,800 square feet, okay? And with about a third of that underwater, we're talking about less than 20,000 square feet. So it's less than a half acre, moving closer to a third of an acre. And it's at the very tip. A good chunk of this land that we're talking about that's not underwater is the rocks, the riprap, whatever you want to call it, the wall, the seawall along there. So it's really small. If you had 20 friends go down there and go like this, you could fill the park up and make people have to go around you and stuff. Then there is, you'll recall me saying, a little path along the water. Well, there's a little path along the water. It goes down to the bandstand, which is, from this map, it looks like it's in the same location that it is now. I know a lot of you folks don't get to go see the park down there because it's locked a lot, although lately the gate's been open. Only ajar. You have to really look to get in to see that it's open, but it's open. So I guess you get to go down and say goodbye to it before they dump condos in the middle of it. Anyway, where the bandstand is, there's no real space other than that. There's a little bit of another thing. What are the dimensions on this? Let's say about, it's a semi-triangular thing about like this. The small part here looks to be, I don't know, 20 feet, 30 feet. It swells out to maybe 80 feet here, and it's about 80 feet like that. So it's, less than an 80-foot square, basically. I guess, both people that go listen to the music down there, are going to be really close friends. Because if there's more than 2 of them, they're going to have to bob offshore, wade in the river or something. Then the balance of that property down there is going to be stores. There's a swimming pool that happens to be inside the fence. So it's, part of the condo project. There's a fence that ropes this project off or something. I don't know, there's some barriers here. Then parking spaces and apartments and the rental office. And then going south, that whole area, if you see where they call it a village pier here, and then it shows the existing pier, that's where the... and then it shows an area for public access along the shore. I walked down there last Saturday, it was kind of like a walk like this. It's a very, very, very narrow, very small area. Anyway, there's this big 8,000 square foot building that's going to go in the bottom of this park, like in the boat club side of the existing park down there, the existing fence park. 8,000 square feet doesn't sound real big. It's big for a house, obviously, but for a store, not so big. But, when you have a park that's, I don't know, let's see, 160, 320, about 1,000 by 1,000, so, I don't know, about 2 acres, 8,000 square feet is substantial. The 2 acres, by the way, isn't the park that's going to be. It's not even the park that is. It's the park that is plus some of the Dan Zeisen property. The Dan Zeisen property is 2 acres. The Village of Ossining parcel down there is 0.7 acres, 0.71 acres, which, by the way, the Maui property right now is listed as, it's assessed as parkland. It's a 963 assessment code. 963, park-city/town. Yeah. So anyway, that's what they call Parcel A, is everything west of the waterfront. Oh, actually, this is the entire Maui piece because oh, no, that's right. Okay. Okay, sorry, there's a lot of paper here. The next piece that's worth looking at is the other parkland that the mayor's talking about. If you look at the topographical information for people that aren't engineers or surveyors, we're talking about, it makes a three-dimensional picture. If you're looking at land, it'll also show you how high, each piece, area of the property is. Say 0, then it'll say 10, because it's going up 10 feet, 10, 10, 10, 10, like this. Well, the other parkland that they're talking about, the Gorge Park or the Kill Gorge Park or whatever name they throw at it from time to time when they're talking about it out in public, the appropriate name for this is actually Parachute Park, because it's a 100-foot drop on the topographical map from Main Street to the Killbrook, okay? And this doesn't take place over a very long area. Like, if it's graduate, if you drop 100 feet in height over a mile, it seems very, graduated. It's a very gradual drop. If you do it in 2 steps, it's not quite as gradual. Well, this isn't a very gradual thing at all. And the park that they're talking about right now is where the trees are, and it's fenced in off of Central Avenue. If you're walking up Central Avenue from Water Street, up on your right-hand side, after you pass the, what is that, Hudson Wire, I think, the building there, as you go up, suddenly there's a big high fence, which is intended, I guess, to protect anyone from stepping off the edge, because it's quite a steep drop from there, too. It goes from 65 feet to 0 pretty quick. That green area there, and then the Killbrook, which you can see from there, and then on the other side, where you see it go back up pretty steep to Main Street. That's the parkland that they're talking about. Now, I don't know, maybe if we could do bungee jumping there or something, maybe, training for, crash landing airplanes or something, I don't know. Perhaps they're going to develop it, but I don't think that's a net gain to us, to tell you the truth. Well, they are going to develop it. There's going to be some stuff built down there, too. Guess what? Condos or apartments. Residential building, 5-story residential or 4-story residential above garage, total of 91 units. Residential townhouses, 2 duplex units stacked up in each module. So I guess that's 4-story. I don't know what they mean by stacked up. Total of 12 units. Anyway, that's taking up about half of that area over there right now, that green area. And then the balance of it, I guess we'll have access to. I don't know if we ever get to leave, of course, because without a rope or a small rocket or something, it's going to be kind of tough to go and get back outside. But anyway, the parkland that they're talking about all together down here is this little 160 by 180 chunk with a third of it or better underwater or rock, riprap, and Parachute Park, which it isn't bad enough that Parachute Park is there now. It's actually quite pretty, although it's not accessible at all. But half of that's going to be covered with condos. Okay. So that's what's going on in terms of parkland down there. Some of the other stuff I wanted to go over here. A lot of people, when I first started getting involved in this, and before, by the way, there are a few dozen people now that are carrying petitions. I hope you're aware of that. Probably a lot of you are, because I think they're coming to your house. I'm hearing a number of things because they're running into resistance. And I wouldn't say resistance. The people that will sign and people that won't sign. The people that won't sign, some of them were surprising to the people that are carrying the petitions. And out of those people, they'd tell me, oh, don't you know so-and-so? I'd say yes, and say they didn't want to sign it. And it surprised me also, but I'd go to find out why. And there's like this rumor campaign going around, but Penny and Tom haven't quite, Penny Markowitz-Moses, who's a trustee, deputy mayor, and Tom Cambreri, who's the mayor, they haven't been telling exactly the same story. Now, I don't have enough of a study on this yet to figure out if there's a science to it or it's just clumsiness on their part. But an example would be there was a newsletter that was that's sent out at Eagle Bay, which is a condominium where Penny lives, and also where one of the folks carrying petitions for us lives, and a lot of other people live there too. Anyway, in this newsletter, it runs off the fact that the riverfront deal basically is a done deal. Said we've been saying that the contracts would be, you read the language and maybe I'll publish it. In fact, I'll certainly have copies of that also at the Village Fair. And lots of copies. So a lot of this stuff you can take home and look at and study. Some of the things like this, you know, big document, zoning petition. I'm going to make a couple of copies to have available there for people, so a few people can read it at a time. But you know, maybe we'll have a copy or somewhere on Main Street also. And if that's the case, then I'll run copies off for people as they ask for it. Anyway, so Penny sends out basically the message, and it gets around that this is a done deal and it's too late to do anything about it. Now, if you really read what she wrote, of course, it doesn't say that. It only strongly intimates it, but the fact is it's not true legally. It's not true that this development agreement obligates the village to do this entire project or precludes the village from using the property that's down there for public purposes, municipal purposes, instead of this for parkland, for example. Okay? There are many, many contingencies in this contract, first. Secondly, the parties don't agree that this deal is going to be a deal. They agree that they're going to try to do a deal. They say what their intents are. Capelli intends to develop and construct on the project site in accordance with a site plan to be approved by the village, which hasn't happened yet. So he intends to do something in accordance with something that doesn't exist. A development which shall include but not be limited to, and then it spells out the stuff you've seen on the cardboard crates. In other words, first of all, what you're hearing is going to happen isn't contractually what's going to happen at all. Okay? I will have this contract for you to read, and I'll redline it if you like. I'll highlight it. I'll do whatever you like. Call me anyway. My phone number is 945-0815. I would love to hear from you about this, and I would love to discuss it with you in depth. Anyway, so Penny sent out the message that this is a done deal. That's the point of that. Tom, on the other hand, in the article that he published in the Penny Saver, I think it's the second paragraph in the right-hand column, says the contrary, that it's an open process, that it's far from a done deal, and that there's plenty of time for public input, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which happens to be true, although I don't think it's his intent to actually provide that when the time comes. But we'll see. I mean, he'll have an opportunity to prove me wrong. I hope he does. So there's this whisper campaign going on that it's a done deal, or that, you know, look, you got plenty of time to do this. I don't know, like, if they're playing it to, you know, select people, like, okay, these folks, I got to tell it's done, it's too late, so forget it. I don't know what their strategy is. Like I said, it's too early in the game for me to figure it out. Or perhaps it's not a strategy. It's just, you know, one person speaking their mind about this. It's their understanding of it, which is wrong. Another person speaking their mind about it is their understanding it, which is, in this case, right but wrong generally. If you read the totality, you know, the organic piece, the whole piece that Tom wrote in the Penny Saver, maybe 2 or 3 tries you'll understand what he said, and it's something that took me, and then you'll go, no. Okay, anyway, one of the interesting things, by the way, Tom, Mr. Mayor, the program that you did inside Ossining, that tie, this ain't great, but this, you know, smiley faces, I guess it's supposed to show optimism or something. I know when you are involved in negotiations, unfortunately, it's true from what I've seen a lot. It doesn't faze me so much, but a lot of people at work, the impression that you're making on someone is like 9/10 of the battle. That form sometimes is as important or more important than substance. This is what people say in business negotiations. Remember all those dress for success things and all that nonsense. Anyway, so I was wondering if there was like a subliminal message with the smiley faces that, you know, is supposed to show that we're upbeat about the project or whatever. Anyway, it was kind of strange. All right, here's some of the things I wanted to get into with some of the real meat. There was a rumor going around the village that basically says, well, apparently there was intent by the owners, the former owners, or about to be former owners of 2 Church Street, to enter into a lease or some arrangement with Phelps for a drug clinic and rehab center of some fashion or another to be sited at 2 Church Street, which is right in the middle of Main Street. It's that newish building where Victoria Theater used to be. It's across from the Open Door. And a lot of the merchants were, upset about it because they were hoping that something would happen there that would generate more foot traffic, that would be more likely to increase their business. And some of them had complained, apparently, to one of the representatives of Capelli in the village, and the representative of Capelli said, well, no problem, I'll have my boss buy the building. This is according to, it's more than a rumor, it's a couple of business people in Ossining have said this. So anyway, long story short, everybody hears, I even heard over in White Plains, somebody was working on the title work for the purchase by Capelli of this property. And a couple days ago, it occurred to me that, hey, you know what, I think I'll look into that myself and see who owns it. Because I was under the impression that the original developer who, built it back in the 70s still owned it. As a matter of fact, that developer sold it in February of 1996. This is the deed that was recorded over there. It's in deed book 11371, conveyance page 215, which is gobbledygook for, that's the book or the place on the computer that you can find the deed. Anyway, property was conveyed in 1996 on February 22nd by 2 Church Street Associates, which was is an entity of the original developer, Halpern, that built that, and also I think they are related entities that are involved in Maple House and Snowden House. They conveyed the property to Rexon Operating Partnership, LP, which is a Delaware limited partnership according to this deed here. Well, it's interesting to me because my understanding is that all of the properties that the Capelli organization sold out a couple of years ago, the Summit over in Mount Pleasant, that huge project there, the building over White Plains where the Surrogates Court is, some of the other ones over by Valhalla Medical Center and such, Rexon is the one entity that took them over. And I thought, my goodness, that's a pretty close relationship. So unfortunately, I ordered a copy of the limited partnership agreement from Delaware last Friday. This is the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. Tonight I don't have it. So I don't know for a fact if Capelli actually operates, as the general partners say, or is involved somehow in the operation of Rexon Operating Partnership, Limited Partnership, or LP rather, because it would be interesting if it was the Capelli organization that was operating that building and then acts like the savior to the local business people that I'm going to buy that building. When in fact perhaps it's only just a transfer of form, from Corporation A of mine to Corporation B or whatever. I don't know what the facts are, except that I know that there is this relationship between Rexon and Capelli organizations. I'm curious also if there's like maybe a management or some sort of operating relationship. Anyway, so that's something I stumbled on last week, and I wanted to share at least what I know about it with you today. Hopefully, before I tape the Saturday show, I'll be able to get into, get into that further on that program. Let's see. We touched on. I'm sorry, I keep bending down. We've got paper all over the place here. I touched on a little bit who's going to suffer if the riverfront development project is actually done, and we started with village taxpayers because. As you're going to find out when the mayor and I either debate this or when you see published materials over time or when your tax bill goes up in a couple of years or next year, taxes are going to go up for the village and taxes are going to go up for the school district. So school district residents, even people that don't live in the village of Ossining, are going to suffer from this. They're going to bear the burden of it. And one of the concepts that you have to keep in mind is this. You can play games with figures, accounting, okay, unless the figures are, all inclusive. To show someone your checkbook, for example, and say that that's the total sum of economic activity last year. For example, if you could get away with showing IRS just your checkbook and say, this is what happened last year, only money I made is what was deposited into the checkbook, only money I spent was what I wrote out checks for, that would be great, but IRS would also say, we want to see everything. We'd like to see what the returns on your shares were. We'd like to see, did you sell or buy any property? We want to see any other income you have that wasn't deposited into that checking account. We want to see what other expenses perhaps you claim that are not reflected in that checking. To get a whole picture of what's going on, you need all of the facts, okay? And of course, it's a very difficult thing to communicate when you're talking to people who are going to spend 20 minutes or 2 hours or whatever thinking about it. If you're lucky, they'll spend that much time thinking about something that's important to them, but they've got the rest of their lives to live. It's real easy to fool them, basically. For example, keep in mind that when somebody says we don't have to build any classrooms if we add 20 kids, that doesn't mean you're not using up classroom space that's available to you, okay? A classroom, say that has 20 people in it, and say you have a school building full of classrooms with 20 people in it except for one classroom which is empty, okay, that's not the most efficient situation, but it's not bad because, why? Next year we have 20 new kids coming to school, and we're not going to have to build a classroom. So, as we know, our school district grows every year. The population, student population grows. And just without any development project at all, people have kids, population is growing, there's going to be more students next year than there are this year. If you have, say, a 10% margin of classroom space that's available that you can expand into without having to build, then, good. Try to find a way of utilizing it now and leave it available for when you need it. If you suddenly do like a one-shot bang and use up the 10% of space, then next year, instead of being able to coast, and the following year and the following year, just sort of gradually soaking that space up, you're going to have to build. Now, someone will say, well, the building isn't a direct consequence of the one-shot project. And in a sense, they're right, but here's the real meat to it. If you don't do the one-shot project, you don't have to do the building, okay? If you do the one-shot project and you have to do the building, the money you made on the one-shot project, you have to subtract from that the money you spend on the building, period. And all you have left is the net, if there is one. Okay, that's, in terms of capital costs, that's the dynamic we're talking about here, whether it be for water, sewer, whatever, infrastructure. Now, one of the other things that the mayor said at this, on his cable show, Inside Ossining, I don't recall him getting too specific in the We Mean Business program. One of the things he said was that the developer is taking care of all the infrastructure and et cetera, et cetera. Well, look, there's a lot of ways of looking at things. That is one way, I guess, but it doesn't really reflect the reality of what's happened down there to date and what's going to happen. There's going to be a major impact on the infrastructure on Main Street and all of the roads that go into the project area down there, the siting area. From trucks rumbling down there, from the extra police that are going to have to direct traffic during different times of the day, whether they're hired extra police or not. And by the way, the mayor admitted the other night now we're going to have to hire one cop. He had said earlier that they wouldn't have to hire any police. I suggested that they might have to hire some police. I never used a number on it. He was acting like, it said 20 or something, like 300 people were going to require 20 police officers, or, one for every 10 people. No, but Our police are going to have to work harder, or we're going to have to hire some more, one or the other, because that area right now isn't very well patrolled. I mean, it's well enough patrolled for vacant area, parks. I see the police down there and everything, but it's not patrolled like you would patrol if there were a few hundred folks living down there, or, 700 folks living down there. It's a whole different situation. I apologize for making microphone noises. I'm trying to clear off my glasses. Anyway, it's very hot in the studio tonight. This is that very steamy June 2nd, if you're watching this, sometime down the line. It was very hot tonight. Anyway, so in terms of looking at numbers, you'll have to keep in mind that you not only have to deal with what somebody calls an expenditure, but what the expenditure actually is, whether it's an expenditure of money right now or an expenditure of some other asset or resource that you have that you're going to have to spend money to replace. See, the shell game is that you call one thing and the other another, but the reality is that if I have to spend this much here and then that much there, then I have to spend this much. In other words, the sum of the two things. So, and looking at it that way, this project not only doesn't make money, but it loses a lot of money, and it puts stress on a lot of existing things. I was listening last night at a village board meeting, June 1st, to a number of folks that live on Sherwood Avenue, Ward Place, in that area, who have been living with rusty water for years. And apparently it's very, very bad now and has been for quite a while. Well, there's no money budgeted to deal with that problem over the next year or so. However, as someone rightly pointed out, $21,000 was spent or budgeted or allocated or pledged, is most accurate way of putting it, I guess, to pay Lynn McCrum, who's the retired village manager from Briarcliff, to act as a consultant to the village for, guess what, development projects. You can see that discussion on the village board meeting, but that 21 grand, for example, is one of the many expenditures, like the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are going to be spent relocating the school buses, or the money that's been spent decimating Vets Park, that are consequences of doing this project without a shovel even being in the ground yet. Okay? There's a lot of direct costs, there's a lot of hidden costs, there's a lot of costs. Now, it's going to be hard to take and summarize all of this stuff and convey accurately what's going on. But it's not impossible, and we're going to do it. Okay? And in the meantime, if the mayor wants to talk about numbers, he ought to start producing some numbers. And he hasn't been doing that. And I'm not talking about a Mickey Mouse chart or two. I'm talking about in depth. Anyway, so there's a few things I want to cover. Where are we time-wise? I say about 25 minutes left. So going through this whole list, I've also covered the commuter aspect. I think more material has been in the public domain lately about Capelli and parking garages and management contracts for parking garages. The county of Westchester is going to be spending a few $1 million now to buy out Capelli's management, basically, of the parking lot over at Westchester Medical Center. This is APCOA, actually, which is related to Capelli Enterprises, Inc. in one fashion or another, a lot of the same players. The cost of it was so high, and there were so many complaints that it became such a political embarrassment that finally the county decided, hey, let's give him some more money and let him cash out now, and then we won't have to listen to this again next year and the year after as people go there every day and get agitated and think about it and investigate it, which is what they don't want. Anyway, here, however, I guess that, our village board won't be embarrassed, I guess. We've been asking for a very long time, do you intend to have the village manage this big parking structure, or are you going to farm it out to somebody so they can hose our commuters? No answer. Deafening silence. The mayor's been asking you to call him, by the way, to discuss this stuff. which I sure absolutely do, but do not take what he tells you on the telephone, which may be different from what he tells him on the telephone or her on the telephone, as gospel, and don't let it, stop you from, investigating further. Make the mayor and the board take public positions on these things that they have to live with. So if they say, oh, no, that's not going to happen, he doesn't know what he's talking about or whatever, make them say it in public. And if he's talking about me, I don't know what I'm talking about. I would love him to say it in an environment where we can actually discuss it back and forth and debate it. Prepared, bring your materials, we'll sit down and hash the stuff out and let people make up their mind for themselves. I hope that happens very soon. The mayor said he would do it at the village board meeting the other night. Linda Mangano, who was at the village board meeting, very enthusiastically said, come on, let's go. He said he'd do it. I have quite a bit of material just with me to do this show. There'd be about this much that I'd need to have to do that, because I want to deal with facts and figures and not fantasy, rhetoric, or ability to debate. There's skills. What I want to do is deal with the material facts of the case and find out, maybe it ought to be condominiums, but I don't think so. I feel it right here that it shouldn't be, and every time I walk around down there or read through another document, I see, nope, not that. It shouldn't be that. People in Sparta, if you're asleep at the wheel, there's going to be an awful lot of traffic going through there soon. I pointed it out last month, and I heard from a couple folks, but really you should think about how much of a problem you're going to have over the next couple of years while they build this thing down there. The people on Main Street, Spring Street, State Street, and Snowden Avenue, Snowden particularly, and Main, probably the two main routes down to the waterfront. A lot of traffic with big trucks and a lot of equipment and everything else all the time. The kids are out there playing, it's not going to be safe. It's not so safe now, but it's going to be really not so safe. Veterans Park, if you walk around up there, you'll see what they did to the trees and everything. It's a shame. Anyway, so I don't need to go through that again. There was a lot of folks that are complaining about a lot of different things that are happening in the village right now, but the common thread to a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it, is the fact that they're basically trying to clear the road to let this steamroller come through Ossining. And, if you happen to be standing in the street at the time it goes by, I'm not crazy about the idea that they're going to destroy this village, but it's a possibility. And it's too bad because I'm not moving, so it means my quality of life is going to be very unpleasant for a while. However, I don't think it's going to come to that. I hope it doesn't, because I'm going to do the best that I can. Let me see. There was one other real material thing I wanted to go over before we got down to cases. Let's see. I got all this stuff from Westlaw here on development agreements and this whole process, basically. That's a development agreement pile. Okay, the public access thing we touched on. It's going to be a very small park at the river, not even a park, like a small hanging out area, not even a sitting park. And then the parachute park over off of Main and Central Avenue. I have one other set of facts that I want to go through. Oh, here we go, all this stuff, right. By the way, the mayor wants us to cool out. He's mentioned fear-mongering the other day in this program that I mentioned, which I said you'll be able to see on Thursday night at 9 o'clock. There's no fear-mongering here. There's nothing to be afraid of except reality. I mean, and we have control over reality. So just as long as we take steps to protect ourselves, there is nothing to be afraid of. And all I'm talking about us protecting ourselves from is wasting like a really good asset that could do a lot of things for us and letting somebody squander it so somebody's friend can make a lot of money on it and deny us the chance to enjoy this thing that right now we own. I mean, we're giving away for much less than we're paying for it, because we're still paying for this property down there, 10 acres of property that should be a park. Should be a park. It doesn't have to be a park tomorrow, but it can be a park, and it can happen for free, for very cheap. And then we can use it. All they have to do for us to use Maui Park, really, is take the fence down. Okay? I mean, that's not, you know, rocket science. To have that, have like a little concession stand in there or something, all they have to do is clean that building out and set up a couple of grills and stuff. Okay? If they've got greenway money to build a path up and down the river, build a path up to Salazzo's. Take a right-of-way all along the river, straight up there. It won't cost much. It won't cost anything if it's done right. Go all the way up to where Salazzo's restaurant was, where the dock and everything are over there, where the paddle boat was. Buy that property and put another concession in there. So somebody, you know, there'll be park available, open space for us, you know, a village pier and boat landing or whatever, and the patio that's out right on the water there. So, like in Central Park, the Tavern on the Green, for example, where the city owns the land, and they lease it out to somebody to operate it. You know, the restaurants that have had trouble down there because, you know, it's kind of seasonal right on the water. You know, the village leased it out. We could have the thing open 8 months a year or whatever. It would be great. And you could walk from there all the way down the river, down to the other parks, which would be opened up one to the other. That we could do almost immediately without spending hardly any money, and that would be ours. Like this year, they could do it. Okay? That's not going to be possible, however, if they do this project. And then, anyway, that's fear-mongering, okay? Let's see. I covered Tom and Penny's disagreement, with divergence in representation of the facts. Isn't that a nice way of putting it? Okay, the status of the development process we've gone over. Essentially, we're waiting to do the zoning ordinance change and the environmental hearings. If we put pressure on them to not adopt the zoning ordinance change, the project can't happen. Although it claims within the document that it can, that this isn't necessary, believe me, watch how it doesn't happen. I got some things I want to cover now. Really, this is just about what we need to think about here. Sorry, but before I do that, there was one other thing. The election season just started, okay? Now, our village board right now is Mayor Thomas Cambereri, trustees Ernest McFadden, Jean Napolitano, Mary Ann Roberts, and Penny Markowitz Moses. Mary Ann Roberts and Jean Napolitano's seats are up for re-election this year, okay? However, Mary Ann Roberts is not going to run for the board again. She is running for the position of town clerk because Marie Fusey, the present town clerk, is not going to run for re-election. Now, Mary Ann Roberts, who wants to be town clerk, said she didn't know, it's in the Gazette, last week's Gazette, she didn't know what the job paid. It's one of the highest paid positions in the municipality. It's full-time. It pays in the $66,000 a year range. She said she didn't know, the clerk, the prospective town clerk said she didn't know how much the job she wants pays, but she's going to give up a seat on the village board to run for it. I thought that was kind of interesting. The other thing that was interesting was Heidi Weintraub was seeking the Democratic nomination and apparently didn't get it. Fran Connolly got it, who ran as a Republican a couple of years ago. Although last year she supported the Cambereri ticket, so I guess this is some sort of payback. Anyway, also Jeff Harder's running again for his seat on the board, town board, and John Chavokas is running again for his seat, and Richard Wishney is running again for his seat in the county board. As of tonight, the Republicans haven't selected anyone yet that I know of to run, but I expect they're doing it today, tomorrow, the next few days, and that should be interesting. Anyway, that's a backdrop for all the stuff that's going to be going on over the next months. Stay tuned. As far as stopping this thing, by the way, anyone thought about what you're going to have a 4-story garage where the existing parking structure is, and then another 4 or 5 stories on top of that for the hotel. It's going to be dark on the waterfront until like 12, 1 o'clock on an average day, till the sun gets over that. And it's going to be dark all along the area where Water Street is and Lower Snowden and all of that after about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun sets behind this building. It's going to be one of those dark canyons that they have in Lower Manhattan. It's going to be our first one for Ossining. Isn't that going to be peachy? If you look at the map, you're going to see there's going to be like no room to move around down around this thing. If you get out, it's a very crowded, crumpled thing. And if you live on Water Street there or on Main Street, Secor Road, that area, all in that area there, obviously the maps that they have showing that they intend to take this stuff, your houses and businesses there at some point in the near future, obviously that's what's going to happen, because what they're building there is completely and totally incompatible with, with the other structures. It's just not, it's like having a log cabin next to a skyscraper in Manhattan. If they put the skyscraper up next to you, what do you think's happening next? Okay, it's possible to stop this. We can start by taking what we own down there and opening it up for parks. Let people get a sense of an improved quality of life. Let's stop wiping out the space at the other parks. We own Dan Zeisen. Let's take our time moving the school buses out of there, but move them out of there, and get state money to clean it up and add that to the park too, okay? Already we haven't spent really any money other than to take the fence down and to get a grant writer to get the state money to clean up Dan Zeisen's property. And we'll have a nice big park down there already with a walkway. And if we spend what it costs to buy the Salazzo property, I don't know what that is, $500,000 maybe, we'll have a park all the way along there already, on up to Shadowmuck, with a walkway past the marina and the oil company there. And then as stuff comes on the market, we can decide if we want to take it or not. But we don't have to waste our future. We won't ever be able to do this if we build those condos down there. We can do it. There's so many mundane, small-minded, blind paths to follow in a history of a village. Yeah, I'm going to preach for a minute. This is something I really want to say, though. And the thing is, it's a wonder that some people sometimes, it's not a wonder that some people sometimes make the wrong choice, but that anybody ever makes the right choice. There's just so many options. It's hard to see what the future's like and where the rest of the village is going to be in 20 or 50 years or whatever, 10 years, 5 years. But it's a choice that we have to make. What we're going to do with our most valuable asset. It's a choice that we have to make now at this moment in Ossining's history. We have to do it now, because if we don't, then we're going to have condos, which is a choice. If we don't do anything, we're choosing condos. And we're choosing not to have a park in our lifetime at the waterfront. Do we act against our feeling that, see, let me back up. I really have a strong sense about this thing, that Ossining is going to bloom if we give it a chance to do it. If we start to improve it for ourselves, it's going to attract people. And this isn't some pie-in-the-sky stuff. A really nice park on the Hudson River will attract people almost immediately. And if we plan around that properly, it's going to boost business, and that'll be what the mayor calls synergy. That's synergy. You jumpstart it by doing something good here that draws people to it, and it starts to support things around it, which then can reinvest and expand and grow something that we can plan that we want. I've had a sense of this before I even ran through the reasoning. Do we act blind against our best feelings because someone said your feeling is wrong and your numbers are wrong, even though they refuse to tell you the who, what, when, where, and why, which is what's happened with the mayor? No convincing proof. Only the word, not even the sworn word, of people who've lied to you before, who've lied to me before. But without any proof or any evidence at all, no open, honest discussion, which may be about to change, but we'll see. You're supposed to ignore your heart, and you're supposed to let a bunch of folks make a bunch of money selling off the future of our village, your future, my future. You get older, you learn that We should feel lucky for the few chances we have to, they say, stop the devil's plans. You know, on occasion when you have an opportunity to mess with the devil's plans, you feel like, wow, it's good, that was good. I'm glad I had the chance to do that. This time, though, we really have a chance not just to stop his plans, but to stop the devil himself. And I don't mean any person. The devil that I'm talking about is politics and politicians taking the future of a place like Ossining and all these places up and down the waterfront and giving it away to their friends, to the connected, to the other folks at the table in smoke-filled rooms, cutting backroom deals, where residents, families, working people, us, where we're nothing but cash-producing, tax-paying streams of revenue they can sell out at a discount, cash out, and move away to wherever they're going to go. There's 25,000 people in this village who have hopes and dreams that need services, schools, good homes, and a reason to work and a reason to live. Why would we let anybody stop us? Why would we lose our biggest, brightest asset and chance for the future? For the money? We're selling it for less than a third of what we paid for it, and we're going to spend more. Plus, we might have to buy this parking lot for $4.5 million. I've been talking about that. For the future revenue, we're going to spend the future revenue on this project. You'll see when we do the real numbers with the mayor. For our quality of life, imagine 6 or 7 stories down there where the train station is. Imagine Brookside, Roosevelt, all these schools cluttered with school buses, Vets Park with more stuff chopped down than they already chopped down. It's not going to be for our quality of life. For our children, do I really need to even address that? We can slay the devil himself and give the whole world an example that places like Ossining do have a voice. The communities like ours can make our voices heard, that people like us working together can make a difference. Thank you very much. I want to see you all at the Village Fair. I hope we have a chance to engage the mayor in a debate. If I can get somebody to give me a cardboard cutout of him, we'll engage that mayor in a debate every half hour or so. We'll have the petitions for you to sign and free T-shirts. Anyway, thanks for all the phone calls. Please call again, 945-0815. Thanks for carrying petitions. Thanks for bringing them over. Please sign the petition if you haven't. Call me up, and somebody will come bring it to you. Thanks a lot. Good night.